Marriage is a hot topic on Studio 5, and we talk a lot about ways couples can work together to be happier. But today, a new twist on that topic. We're sharing moves you can make to improve your marriage all on your own. Dr. Liz Hale is here to explain. So, Liz, this is really a pretty big departure from what we're used to in a marriage conversation.
Yeah, and you know what? A lot of marriage therapists are really worried about a head count in therapy. You know, they want two people in there. And even I was that way until about maybe 10, 12 years ago, and I realized, you know what? Sometimes it's just one person who's motivated to come into therapy. It doesn't work for everyone. You know, especially in particular men, they wouldn't be caught dead in a therapist's office. And so are we gonna beat them over the head and drag them in? How effective would that be? Or can we work with a partner who's going to be there? There is this marriage merry-go-round, and when one person hops off, it can make all the difference.
So interesting. So really, it's just all it takes to get into this new kind of methodology is a willingness.
And if you're willing. Yes, that's right. And if there's a viewer who's interested, I found a really cute book. It's called It Takes One to Tango. You know, usually it takes two to tango. It takes one to tango. And I thought she was so lovely, Winifred Riley. She is a therapist herself. And she talks about this very personal journey of going into the therapists of therapists, this husband and wife team who have a marriage clinic out of Menlo Park, I think, California. And how she really learned from them. And she talks back and forth about working with the clients and how she'll apply that to her own marriage that she's really unhappy with and dissatisfied. And it's just very sweet and so well done. I can't recommend it enough.
That's great to hear about that book, especially because it does maybe help us identify some of those traits in ourselves.
That's right.
And you know, when we're sitting on the outside looking at other people's marriages, it's the worst, right? Because you kind of tend to think, oh, wow, they've really got it figured out, and we're over here kind of struggling along. But you say that it's not just you, just marriage is generally kind of a hard thing.
If there is one thing, and I said this to a couple who came in the other night after, I think they were married 32 years, and guess who made the appointment for them? Their adult children.
Oh,
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, that
They
is.
called me, and I usually don't make appointments for other people. I made the exception, but I did ask to speak to both of them before the appointment came to be, because it's such a personal decision choosing a therapist for someone. But that's what I said to them is, you know what, one thing you gotta know, and I think they just went this sigh of relief, is that it's not just you. Marriage is difficult. Marriage is a tough teacher, and sometimes it's harder than others, but it's not just you. And people are so relieved to hear that, because we see couples happy, and this couple would look at other couples in their life or at a restaurant going, look how lovey-dovey all these people are. Everyone else can do this but us. What's wrong with us? And they got to this point of just thinking, you know, I guess after a couple decades of marriage, this is just as good as it gets. You just live your separate lives. You're not really happy. You're not sleeping together. You're not talking together. There's no sex. There's no intimacy. And I guess this is as good as it gets.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Sad.
You get stuck in this pattern and can't see a way out. But even in that situation, I mean, given that, which so many couples are probably familiar with, one person can make a difference.
One person can. Well, in this case, it was their children, right? The adult children who said, this could be better. And so they were the hope for them that this couple didn't have, until we sat down together after a couple hours and the light bulbs go on. It's like, I never realized you felt that way. You know, he said that to her and she said that to him. It's like, it was almost like the lights were turned on.
And it's amazing how much time you can spend together and not really be communicating what's going on deep inside.
That's right. We get stuck in those patterns.
That's so interesting. You also say that we have to go against our own self-preservation instinct.
Yeah, that's right.
You're going to have to walk me through that one here,
isn't it? Because the brain, our own brains are like, you know, red alert, don't change, go with status quo, you're not going to be okay. And we really have to fight against that. When a partner comes home, at a dinner conversation last night with some cute friends, and this one said, yeah, he'll come home in a bad mood and just be ornery, and he'll start yelling, and then I'll jump in and I'll start yelling, and it's like we're just off to the races. Instead of realizing that, okay, no matter what my partner does or says, I am myself. I'm an I over here in the we. I'm separate, and I could really make a new choice. I could really do something different that could just make that go, you know, like all the air out of a balloon just comes, you know, piling out, whereas suddenly it just changes. Like for this other person I was working with whose husband would come home in a bad mood, she just suddenly decided to agree. It's like, yeah, that just sucks. That's awful. And he was surprised. He was surprised.
Catch him off guard, right?
And then later on, he started to talk about a problem at work, you know, and then it was so very different.
Kind of easy into it.
So
and I think you're right, just hearing that story and thinking, a lot of times we do look to our partner and think, gosh, they should change. What's wrong with them?
If you change, then
if
I'll
they
change, right?
Well, then it's easy, right? Because it's never my fault, clearly.
So if we can manage that anxiety about change, about doing something different, this will be so much more doable. If we just realize this will be hard, this is against the grain, it's against the brain, and I can do it anyway.
And you say in line with that self-protection is poison. Speak up.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Yeah, so the one thing that can help communication is to speak up. So there's 3 areas that we don't speak up. And what we do is we tend to withdraw. We close up and we're silent. And that's like poison to a marriage because our partner's going, what the heck is going on? And then they start to write a script and we're not correcting their hallucinations. And it's so lonely. It's the loneliest of lonelies for that other partner. Or we attack. When I get afraid, I start to attack, hoping that then he'll change his behavior. That's not speaking up. So we need to speak up without accusation. And the other way we don't speak up is we just go along to get along. And that's arsenic to a marriage also. Pretty soon, my partner doesn't know who I am, and I don't even know who I am anymore, right? We start to avoid pain, but it really creates more pain. So speaking up, when you can do so with great reserve, for instance, husband and wife, the wife would often just go, you know what, this conversation's over. And it would just shut him down. And he finally did something different. He turned on a dime, he says, I'm not done talking. I'm not done talking. I have more to say. And it was very calm and it was clear and it stopped her also in her tracks. And he was able to say what he wanted to say.
Kind of changing the pace of the conversation.
Yes, just change one thing and it's amazing how you start to go in a different direction, a different dance, a different merry-go-round.
And I've even found those times when I want to just be sharp on the response, thinking, counting to 10, just something to kind of pull myself out of the moment. Which
Almost
is
think ahead a little bit, right? If that partner's in pain, I'm not going to join the pain. What is my goal here? What do I want to have happen? And if what I'm about to say, is that going to meet that goal or not? You know, what do I really want to have happen here? So sometimes I'll start also by saying, so if your partner were here, Emily, if you don't mind if I use you. Oh, this is a strange Emily, a stranger Emily.
Put us on the altar of sacrifice.
If your partner were here, what would he say that just drives him nuts? In other words, what are you doing? And it's really helpful to hear from Emily, well, this is probably what it is. Well, then let's do something different. Or when you did get along, what were you doing differently? There is such power in that.
That's
to know that I can change things up.
And then you say solutions really are small, obvious, and ordinary.
Yeah,
that they're not necessarily these huge.
They really are the simple things that we do. Even the woman I worked with recently, I'll call her Lynn, she realized that, you know what, I am kind of the social planner of our marriage, and my husband typically appreciates that because he doesn't have to think about it. And it's been a long time since we've been alone, and I don't know how it'll go, but what she did was she got a babysitter, she made reservations at a favorite restaurant her husband loved, and surprised him with a night out, and it was delightful. But again, she had to really kind of examine her fears, take a deep breath, and move forward with something that she thought would work, and it did. It doesn't make things perfect, but it was a great change, a great start in a new direction.
Well, and you were really giving us kind of the courage to go ahead and take a step back and look at that. Thank you so much,
Yeah, it's been
Liz.
such an honor. Thank you.